Hi, I'm Robert McKee, and I'd like to introduce you to my new book, Dialogue, The Art of Verbal Action for Page, Stage, and Screen. It is a complete study of the art of dialogue in depth and breadth, I believe, with lots of topics and various subjects, but let me just focus on two for the moment to give you a sense of what you'll find in the book. Transparency and variety. And by transparency, I mean this. The ideal dialogue, when it's said, or when you read it in a novel, becomes a kind of a piece of glass that you see through to the deeper thoughts and feelings in the conscious mind of a character, or even down to the subconscious mind of the character. It's the difference between what I term the said, the unsaid, and the unsayable. The said is dialogue, what characters outwardly say. But when the dialogue is really excellent, the audience or the reader's mind seems to travel right through those words to the unsaid, to the thoughts and feelings that are going on inside of the character that the character chooses not to express, and all the way down to the unsayable, those thoughts and feelings in the subconscious of the character that, of course, are subconscious, and therefore the character cannot say or do them. And beautiful dialogue then creates this kind of multi-layered experience where you hear a character saying whatever they say, but your mind and your eye and your ear seems to go deep into their conscious thoughts and even into their subconscious thoughts. The worst kind of dialogue is what we call on the nose. Dialogue that's on the nose is dialogue that puts the unsaid or the unsayable into the dialogue, and the characters are actually saying out loud what they're deeply thinking, even subconsciously thinking and feeling outward into the words that they say. And of course that produces the most artificial kind of dialogue, because obviously human beings are incapable of saying out loud what they're deeply thinking subconsciously. And so wonderful dialogue is a transparency. The book is called The Art of Verbal Action for Page, Stage, and Screen, and therefore I'm looking at dialogue as it's done in the novel, in the short story, in the theater, of course, in plays, musicals, theater pieces of all kinds, and then for the screen, both the cinema and, of course, television. And my definition of dialogue is anything said by any character to anyone. And so if we take that to mean dialogue, everything that characters say to anyone, which would include themselves, or in the case of a novel, to the reader, you come to realize that in the novel, the first person novel, is tens of thousands of words of dialogue, because this is a character talking either to us, the reader, or talking to themselves, and so the whole book is nothing but dialogue. Within the novel, then, either in the first person, third person, or the eccentric second person, the novelist can dramatize dialogue. They can create little scenes that you could almost take right out of the novel and shoot in a film, or they can imply the dialogue in the text, and so you have dramatized dialogue, narratized dialogue, and you have all the persons, first, second, and third, and as a result, dialogue for the novel has the greatest flexibility. Prose writers have an opportunity to use dialogue in the most amazing variety of ways. Then there's the stage. In the theater, the essence of theatrical dialogue is that it is the most poetic of all forms of dialogue, because in the theater, the playwright has a license to do what the screenwriter and a television writer may not do, and that is to write dialogue in a way no human being has ever spoken. A playwright like the great Racine or Shakespeare can write not just poetic dialogue, but use poetry itself as dialogue, lifting the expressivity of dialogue to the highest, most brilliantly poetic levels. In the cinema and on television, dialogue becomes its most economical. In film, we want to see, not hear. And so the ideal attack on any scene in the film is to write the scene as visually as possible, and the dialogue then in film is a regretful second choice. Consequently, you try to write dialogue when it's necessary, as of course it will be in a film. You try to write it as economically as possible, saying the absolute maximum in the fewest possible words, so that the emphasis is on the images and not the words. And the irony is, as a result, that when a screenwriter really tries to make a cinematic, tell the story cinematically, visually, the irony is that when the dialogue finally does arrive on screen, as it of course will, it has real impact, because it is dialogue against what is primarily a visual experience, and the ear is hungry for it in the cinema, and we really react to dialogue when it is sparse in film. Now, there's lots of exceptions to all this. Of course, there's lots of films that are like, talking heads, a carpeted dialogue from one end to the other. But the ideal film would be at least 80, maybe 90% for the eye and only 10% for the ear. And so the essence of great screen dialogue is economy of language. And so there's a tremendous variety of techniques necessary to write dialogue for these grand media of page, stage, and screen. So that's just two subjects off the top of my head that are in the book. I hope you will enjoy it, and let me know. You can send me little reviews or whatever of what you think of the book. I'd be very, very, very interested to know what the French think about this book on dialogue. I've enjoyed French cinema all my life, and to get this book into the French language and to see if any effect it may have on French writing for page, stage, and screen would really be a delight for me. So if the book helps you, let me know. Thanks.